Okay. Okay. Shall I?
Okay.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yes, ma'am. Shall I leave, ma'am?
Yeah. Thank you. Hearty greetings to one and all gathered here. Welcome all to this panel discussion organized by Confederation of Kerala Sahodaya Complexes, an umbrella organization for all. The Sahodaya Complexes of Kerala is committed to handhold CBSE schools in Kerala. Confederation, through its academic and training wing, has been instrumental in bringing professionalism to our fraternity. And this panel discussion is designed to empower the teachers of CBSE affiliated schools to train students for the CBSE Term 2 examination of class 10 and 12. As all of us are aware, CBSE has made fundamental changes in the question paper, which we would be analyzing in the next 30 minutes. And today, 17th Thursday, we are about to have a panel discussion on class 10 English language and literature. As I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of changes implemented in the board sample paper. And right in the beginning, we have been informed that this whole academic year is divided into term 1 and term 2. Term 1 examination, which was the objective mode, got over in the month of December, and term 2 exams are scheduled for the month of April. And it's very important to train the teachers so that they can equip the students to prepare well for the upcoming board examination. Based on the sample paper issued by the board, it's very evident that it's going to be in the subjective mode with too many changes. And as I mentioned earlier, it's very important for the teachers as well as the students to get acquainted with the sample paper. And to help us with this, we have three eminent panelists, subject experts, joining from different parts of Kerala. And before introducing them, let me introduce myself. I'm the moderator for the day, Elizabeth Cherian, joining you from Thrissur. To begin, we have with us Sunita Elizabeth Nayanan, working at Navajeevan Bedani Vidyalaya, Trivandrum, with an experience of more than 23 years at different levels of schooling, right from KG to 12. And at present, ma'am is handling 7, 10, 11, and 12th grade. Ma'am would be handling and speaking on reading session for us. So on behalf of all, let me accord a warm welcome to Sunita ma'am. Hearty welcome, ma'am, to our panel discussion, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, ma'am, and hello, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about the reading section, which carries 10 marks, how to go about it when you write your term 2 exam. There will be two passages, one discursive and the other case-based.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for that brief introduction. Can you please throw some light on the changes that are being reflected in the reading session in term 2 question paper?
Okay, the reading section focuses on the ability of a student to analyze, infer, and evaluate. 6 questions will be asked from each passage, of which 5 have to be answered. One important point to be noted is that there won't be any options to choose from, and at the same time, you will not get any direct questions.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Earlier reading session was compared quite easier, but nowadays it's not the same. Students find it very difficult. So can you just give some tips so that we can make it comfortable for the teachers as for the students as well?
Now, to answer the questions of the comprehension passage, I'm going to give you some tips, but these are only from the point of view of an exam. You can differ or adhere. It's up to you. First tip would be read the questions first, just to get an idea of the passage and how to approach it. Then read the passage with the questions in mind and find the solutions. Earlier, since questions were direct, skimming a passage would have given you the answers. But this term, you'll have to comprehend the passage and analyze it to reach the solutions. Keep in mind that the questions would be in a sequential order. That is a tip, because the first question would be there, and the answer of the first question would be there in the first paragraph itself. The second one probably in the first or the second. So you would be able to find the answers a little easier.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for that tips. Now, can you just give us more insight on the type of questions that would be asked in the reading session? As you mentioned, it won't be direct. So what kind of questions can the students expect in the reading section?
Okay. To speak more about the type of questions in the marking scheme, let's look at the first passage. There would be questions asking for reason, rationalization, that is the cause and effect questions, advantages, justifications, and vocabulary. The questions related to vocabulary and listing advantages, no partial marks will be awarded. But for the others, if you write at least 1 point or one part of the answer, you will get partial mark. In the second passage, that is the case-based passage, questions will be based on interpretation or explanation of the case, the objective, you have to state the objective, justification, rationalization, and study the data given and prove or rationalize and also explain the role of a tool used. Partial credit would be given only to justification, rationalization, and studying the data questions.
Okay, so there is a chance for the students to get the partial credit, at least if they write 1 point as per the demand of the question, right,
Yes,
ma'am?
yes.
Thank you. Okay, so the next major query would be regarding the time specification. So like if we go on with the specific time allotment, we all know that we have got 2 hours for this 40-mark question paper. So if we go on with a specific time allotment, how much time should be set apart for this reading session from the student's point of view?
Comprehending a passage depends on each student's ability. At the same time, the time frame is only 2 hours. So once you have an idea of the questions asked, I think 25 to 30 minutes should be enough to find the answers. Some students use the cool off time to read the passage and the questions and the passage so that they would be well equipped when they start writing the answer.
Okay, so as per your suggestion, it would be beneficial for the students if they utilize the school of time for reading the comprehension so that they get acquainted with the passage. And of course, another tip, as Sunita ma'am pointed out, is like read the questions and just get an idea of the questions that are being asked and then approach the passage so they may have an idea. And I think this type of approach would help them to locate even the vocabulary also, right, Sunita ma'am?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. As you have already mentioned about the marking scheme, like before winding up with the reading session, can you just give us more insight on the marking scheme of the reading session that would be highly beneficial for the students? Can you just point out regarding the partial credit and the full credit once again, ma'am?
Okay, the partial credit would be given to questions that would be asked of reason, to rationalize, and to state advantage and to justify. But no partial credit would be given to vocabulary and listing the advantages. If you list the advantage completely, only you will get the mark. Vocabulary also, once you give the word only, you will get the mark.
So comprehending the passage is very, very important. So then only they can locate the vocabulary. So those who are listening to this panel discussion, students, this is a request from the part of the teachers that when you attempt the reading session, you have to analyze, infer, evaluate all these terms. You should get acquainted with all these terms and implement it when you comprehend the passages. So thank you, Sunita ma'am, for sharing us this valuable insight. Please do be here with us. We will join, we will get back to you very soon. So thanking you, very much. Please be here with us. We will get back to you. Now, switching over to writing section and grammar. Again, we do see there are many changes being reflected over there. And we have our next panelist joining us, Mrs. Suma Vias. Ma'am is the principal of Good Hope Central School, Cheruvallur, Malappuram, and ma'am will be giving more details regarding the writing and the grammar section. So on behalf of all, let me accord a warm welcome to Suma ma'am. Hearty welcome, ma'am. Ma'am, you're not audible. Can you just unmute?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth ma'am. And I will be detailing with the section B, grammar, writing and grammar, which carries a total of 10 marks in the question.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So as it is in the writing part, let's begin with the choice. As per the board sample paper, we writing parts come with the choice. So could you please help our students with the type of questions and the choice in the writing part?
Yes, writing part has come with a choice this year. For the term 2, the marks allotted is 5 marks only for writing part. 2 types of questions can be asked from the writing part: formal letter writing and analytical paragraph. And in formal letter writing, again, we have 2 types of letter of placing order and an inquiry letter. These are the specified items. And one thing is to be noticed that there is a possibility to ask both questions from the same type, either from letter writing or from analytical paragraphs. So the students must be well practiced with the both types.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now let's concentrate more on the letter writing. What are the points to be taken care of while attempting a question of letter?
Okay, when we talk about letter writing, as said earlier, there are two types of letters mentioned here, letter of inquiry and letter of placing order. As per the marking scheme given by CBSE, 5 mark is bifurcated like 2 for content, 2 for expression, and 1 mark for accuracy. In the content part, as per the nature of the question concerned, that means either inquiry or placing order. If all the value points related to the character of the question concerned are included with a well-developed writing style with clarity, that complete full mark will be allotted in that area. And accordingly, the presentation, it's up to the presentation of the children, the students, that there is a possibility of a lower level of marks will be awarded if all the things are not up to the mark. When come to the expression part, 2 marks will be allocated if the content part is well structured with effective style of which can capable of conveying ideas with appropriate layout of a formal letter with the sentence address, date, receiver's address, subject, salutation, content, and conclusion part. And as I said before, if it is not done properly, a lower level of marks can be also awarded in that category. Regarding accuracy, again, there is 1 mark will be awarded. Of course, in the accuracy part, the spelling, punctuation, and the accurate grammar, everything will come. And if the number of mistakes are spread across, marks will be deducted accordingly.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, next in line, we have analytical paragraph. I hope all will be eager to know more about analytical paragraph. And can you please help our students as to how to approach this analytical paragraph?
Yes, of course. As we know, this is the second option question which may come in the writing and grammar part. Analytical paragraph is the form of descriptive paragraph which is based on a given data, chart, graph, outline, or table, etc. So it has to be written around somewhere around 100 to 150 words, and it has to be written in a language in a very clear, simple, and crisp manner.
Suma ma'am? Suma ma'am, please. Suma ma'am, are you there?
It should explain in 1 or 2 lines only about the subject of the
Suma ma'am, may I interrupt you? Your voice is breaking.
concern.
Suma ma'am, may I interrupt you?
In a detailed manner. When we come to the body of the paragraph,
Suma ma'am, may I interrupt you? Your voice is breaking. Yeah, I think because of some technical glitches, she left the meeting. Let's wait for her. I hope she will join very soon. Okay, let's not waste time and let's wait for Suma ma'am to join. By the time, let's move on to the literature section. And we have our eminent panelist amidst us, Srikala ma'am, joining with us to give us more insight on the literature section. To speak about Srikala ma'am, she's the HOD of English Department of Siddhartha Central School, Kollam. She has got 21 years of teaching experience, handling both secondary and senior secondary English. She has been the head examiner for the past 3 years. So hearty welcome, Srikala ma'am, to this panel discussion. Srikala ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you to Confederation Panel, Kerala Sahodaya personalities to organize such a wonderful platform to share my views. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Srikala ma'am, for joining us. This time, literature comes with a maximum weightage and with a lot of changes. So I do expect that there will be a lot of queries regarding this literature section, and those who are listening to this panel discussion, it would be highly beneficial for them to have a great deep insight about the literature section. So can you please explain what are the changes that are being reflected in the literature section?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. As you said, literature session carries the maximum weightage, that is for 20 marks, that is out of 40. For 20 marks, questions are from literature. And the literature pattern for term 2 is descriptive with 2 mark and 4 mark questions. And for the 2 mark questions, students have to attempt any 6 out of 7 within the word limit of 30 to 40. And then for the long answer 4 mark questions, students have to attempt any 2 within the word limit of 100 to 120 words. But regarding the change that now you asked, what I noticed when I had gone through with the sample question paper is the way of asking questions is entirely changed when we compare it with the previous year's question paper. Because now CBSE is focusing more on competency-based education concept. And so surely the questions are focused to assess critical thinking and conceptual clarity. And I think each student should know about this. And for that, we educators have to take all the possible measures to equip the students to attempt these competency-based questions in which they can apply their application of concepts instead of rote learning. That is why I think even extract-based questions are totally eliminated from the pattern.
Okay. So what is the proportion of questions? As you mentioned, we have 2 marks and 4 marks. So what could be the proportion of questions from the main text and the supplementary text?
When I had gone through with the sample paper, ma'am, what I noticed is out of 7 short answer questions, 5 questions are from the textbook first flight. And regarding the long answer 4 mark question, out of 3, 2 questions are from the supplementary reader footprints without feet. So normally we can think that the weightage is given maximum to the textbook first flight. That means we should not avoid the supplementary reader. Instead, we have to advise the children not to do so, because sometimes if any simple questions, text-based oriented questions, maybe they can expect from supplementary reader, so that it will help them, as it needs only very less effort when compared with the competency-based questions.
Okay, so as ma'am, you pointed, it's very important for the students. Those who are listening, please make a note of it, that learning the core concept is very, very important. So read between the lines and don't expect that direct questions, and don't stick on to the rote learning. So, and it is often asked by the students that what type of questions should they expect in the literature part. So how can we make the students get acquainted with the sort of questions? Can you please help us with this?
Regarding the type of question, now it's quite sure that CBSE is not giving any direct based questions. So, surely they will reduce the number of recall questions, and instead the literature questions will focus more on to assess interpretation, inference, character analysis, value-based questions, and even extrapolation beyond the text. And from the poem, actually, we can expect what character analysis also, but at the same time tone of the speaker, then appreciation and all that. It is entirely different from the previous pattern.
Okay.
And even theme-based questions also to test the critical thinking, imaginary situations based conversation based on imaginary situations can be asked. So what all the ways the questions can be asked, but the students have to apply the core concept of lessons.
So as ma'am pointed out, that critical thinking questions are very, very important because it belongs to the 21st century skills as well as the competency based question. So always keep it in mind that when you have to read between the lines, read the text, and please make yourself aware of the core concept and learn how to write it in your own words. So as ma'am pointed out, we have got 2 mark and 4 mark questions. So like for 2 marks and 4 marks, how many value points are they expected to write? Because the board evaluates the paper, or the evaluators evaluate the paper based on the value points mentioned in the marking scheme. So can you just help us with this?
Yeah, sure. It is defined very well actually in the marking scheme that is issued by CBSE. And for 2-mark question, 1 mark will be for the content part, which includes value points. And for the short answer, at least 2 to 3 value points is expected. And then if these points organized effectively and logically within the word limit, surely a child can score the rest 1 mark, which comes under expression. And regarding the long answer for 4-mark question, at least 3 to 4 value points are needed under the content part, excluding introduction and conclusion.
Thank you. So students, please make a note of it, that how many value points you have to write. And as ma'am pointed out, the logical sequencing. So that is what is being considered in the expression part. So arranging let me put it in simpler ways, presenting your answer in an effective way. So that is a logical sequence. So thank you, ma'am, for that. And moving on to the next question, we have the 4-mark question. Of course, the students in earlier days, they have the practice of writing 5 marks, but 4 marks, how they should present the answer? Is there any specific pattern for presenting the answers over there?
Yes, ma'am, sure. As I said earlier, even for long answer questions, we can expect questions based on compare and contrast, character analysis, creative writing skills such as imaginary conversation between 2 characters based on a situation, then macro-based, that is theme-based questions, etc. And for these questions, actually, students should have an introduction with 1 or 2 sentences. Then they have to attend the content part, in which they have to include the essential value points, and then they have to present 1 concluding part with 1 or 2 sentence, which should have a connection with introduction and content. And if they follow this structure, surely they can present the paper very well.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So those who are listening to this forum, please, this discussion, please make a note that introduction and conclusion, of course, the conclusion should reflect your perspective as well. So thank you, Sunita ma'am. We will get back to you. We have Suma ma'am again joining with us. Okay, I hope you are fine, Suma ma'am.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So we were talking about the analytical paragraph. So can you just please continue with that, how to help the students in attempting the analytical paragraph?
Okay. I will be repeating once again regarding the analytical paragraph. An analytical paragraph, it is a complete description, a paragraph in the form of a description, which is based on a given chart, graph, or outline, or even a table. It has to be written somewhere around 100 to 120 words, and the language must be most possible a simple, clear, and crisp one. And when we come to that structure of an analytical paragraph, we can see that we can divide into 3 parts, like introductory part, where the child is supposed to give a 2-line, maximum of a 2-line explanation regarding the subject of the given paragraph. And when we move to the body of the main content, we will have the child is supposed to give, or the student is supposed to give, a detailed explanation regarding what the paragraph is about, with the comparison, contrast, analysis, etc. By establishing some figures, and there they can explain the trends, they can make a comparison, contrast, etc. with the relevant data from the given table or clue. And when we come to that conclusion part, students should use that overall summary. They have to be able to give an overall summary of the paragraph, in which the reader is supposed to get a complete picture of what that analytical analysis is made of. That is what about the structure of the analytical paragraph. And analytical paragraph, when one more point is to be added, where there is no need of title is required instead, because it is not a descriptive paragraph where the student is going to write a detailed explanation about a particular title or about a particular subject. Instead, they are going to analyze, so that no need of a title concerned, but even then board is suggesting that if a student has given the title, definitely there will not be any penalty in that aspect.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Like how are the evaluators going to evaluate the analytical paragraph? Can you just throw some more light on the marking scheme of the analytical paragraph?
Of course, marking scheme related to the marking scheme given by CBSE, as we know, total mark is 5. That will be bifurcated into 3 plus 2, 3 for the content part and 2 for the organization and expression. And when we come to that regarding the content part, when we analyze it in a detailed way, we can see that a half mark, somewhere around a half mark will be awarded for the introductory paragraph. As I told already, it should be a very short one, should not be a detailed one. It should suggest only what the paragraph is about. And again, 2 marks will be awarded for the comparison or contrast with proper evidence or with proper figures from the given data. And again, for the conclusion part also, half mark will be given. So for the content part, that 3 marks will be again bifurcated to half plus 2 plus half, like that. When we come to that organization and expression area, we can see that that examiner will be looking for whether the student is able to organize the details in a logical sequence. And from the expression part, we can see that whether it has got a introductory part, whether it has got a body part, whether it has got a conclusion part, and moreover, whether the student has used the functional terms, functional language, particular terms which suggest comparison, contrast, etc. That is how it goes. So 3 plus 2 is the bifurcation.
Okay,
So
thank
in
you.
the expression part, of course, or that half mark for conclusion and 1 mark for half mark for conclusion and 1 mark for use of, as I said, use of appropriate functional terms.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now let's move on to the grammar part. Please help us out with the grammar part. Term 2 question paper has a different sort of question when we compare to the term 1 question paper, especially in the grammar part. So what are the questions that are being asked in the term 2 question paper related to grammar?
Okay, related to grammar part, this time the most important change is that there is no choice for the students. Only 2 questions, total mark awarded is 5. 3 mark for editing and 2 mark for a reported speech. Right.
Okay, so like it is a query often raised by the students, like how to attempt this editing questions.
Okay, editing, as we all know, a paragraph will be given with an error which is to be identified by the student, and it should be rectified by the student in each line. 3 errors will be there and 3 areas there for rectification. So in editing, it is suggested that the student should read the paragraph first, should have an idea, so that it will help the students to use the appropriate grammatical element and to identify the mistake as early as possible, so that they can supply the correct answer. And for editing, as far as marking scheme is concerned, 1 mark will be awarded for each complete answer, right answer. And in that 1 mark, again, it is bifurcated to half plus half mark for identifying the error and half mark for supplying the correct answer. And it is very important that editing will not be complete. Editing will not be complete if the student fails to supply any one of the part, either identification or rectification of the mistake. So both should be supplied from the part of the student, then only they will be eligible to get the complete 1 mark. And there is no partial awarding of marks in report. I mean, that is for reported speech. For editing, exactly partial awarding is there, half mark. If the child is able to identify the error, they will be getting half mark, and if it is for rectification, they will be awarded half mark, like that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So as you said, we have, while doing the editing exercises, the students should read the exercise as a whole. try to point out the error. Then while answering, they should write both the incorrect as well as the correct answer for getting the full marks, right, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, now moving on to the reported speech. What are the changes that are being reflected and how a student should attempt the reported speech question?
Yeah, as per our syllabus given by CBSE, we know that for class 10, term 2, for reported speech, the student must be thorough with reporting statements, questions, commands, and requests, these parts. So, as far as reported speech is concerned, as I suggested, there is no partial awarding of marks. 1 mark for one correct answer, and there will be 2 mark, 2 options are there, 2 chances are there for to write that answer. So 2 questions, 2 marks. So there is no partial awarding of marks in reported speech. It is suggested that the students must be thorough with the rules and regulations regarding the reporting of commands, questions, and statements.
Okay, so as ma'am said, students those who are listening to this discussion, please make a note. We have statement, commands, request, and questions, and you will be getting 2 questions, and there is no options. Like when we are comparing with the previous year's question papers, no options would be given. You yourself will have to do the conversion and make a note of it. There is no partial credit, so you have to be very careful while attempting the reading comprehension. So coming back to the end of this session, panel discussion, we have gone through all the sections of the question paper and hope this panel discussion would be really beneficial for the teachers and the students to decode the term 2 question paper. Let me express my sincere gratitude to all the panelists joining from different parts of Kerala to make this panel discussion an effective one. Thank you, Sunita ma'am. Thank you, Suma ma'am, and thank you, Srikala ma'am. Hope this discussion would be very useful for the class 10 teachers and the students. And I would fail in my duty if I don't mention about the Confederation of Kerala Sahodaya Complexes for this wonderful initiative. And they have taken a great step to reach out to the students as well as to the teachers at this towards the end of the term. This is a great step taken by the Confederation to help each and everyone on how to decode the question paper. So let me thank the Confederation of Kerala Sahodaya Complexes for all the support they have rendered, for the technical assistance, everything. And let me wind up by expressing my sincere gratitude once again to all our dear panelists for their remarkable effort and for sharing some of their valuable time out of their hectic schedule with us. So thank you. Thank you for making this session a very effective one. Let me point out the panelists one by one again. Sunita ma'am joining us from Trivandrum, and Suma ma'am joining us from Kollam, and Srikala ma'am joining us from, Suma ma'am from Malappuram and Srikala ma'am from Kollam. So thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.